spoilers? Oh, lots and lots of spoilers.
Television. That glass and plastic monolith that brought us joy, raised our children, and made it clear to us how bad our armpits smell. TV. In the words of one H. Simpson, teacher, mother, secret lover. TV. Here at Max Mike Movies, we're starting a brand new series, just in time for sweeps. Look it up, kids. I Made From TV Love You, a series about movies that were based on old, beloved, or at least old, TV shows. And we're starting off with a bang, or at least a two-handed snap, with 1991's The Addams Family, an adaptation of a 1964 TV show that took its character designs from the cartoons of the rather bizarre artist Charles Addams. I am your neat, sweet, if not very petite, host, Max Levine, and over there, getting his witch's shawl on and trying to crawl onto a broomstick, and failing miserably, is your host, Mike Luce.
Whoa! Ow.
You're right there.
Ow.
And today,
Ow.
we've got a very special guest, all the way from Götterdammerungsstraße, Dorf Heimberg, Herr Joseph Franz Josef von Halbwitz.
Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, it's Götterdammerungsstraße, Dorf Heimberg, Stadt. Common mistake.
Excuse me.
Don't worry about it.
My bad.
I always mispronounce that.
And Herr Halbwitz is joining us here because of very important reasons, in that he happened to be walking by and I had a microphone.
I believe it was because of stuff and reasons.
Possibly reasons and or stuff.
I do have one question, though. Is he, in fact, in focus?
He is in focus.
Ah, good.
So, yes, I have that going for me.
Mm-hmm. He does.
Is it Dr. or Mr. Halbwitz?
It's Herr von Halbwitz, which
Herr
is Mr.
von Halbwitz. All right.
Oh, should I say Dr. Von Scott?
It's been a long time since high school German. You have to excuse me if you would. Yeah. But don't we have a question to go over there?
We do. We have the last trivia question. Poll question. What is a movie that everyone else just seems to love, but you either hate or at least just find meh and wonder what all the hubbub is about? Bub? And we got a bunch of answers off of this. This is something people feel pretty strongly about. From Ned, my godson. As for movies I just don't get, 2001 A Space Odyssey didn't really do it for me. I could tell it was beautiful and liked it as a work of art, but it seemed cold and abstract to the point of not being relatable. Maybe it's a generational thing. Yeah, thank you. I've grown up knowing that computers aren't our friends and that aliens may very well be entirely inscrutable. Snapper. No.
I don't think he's wrong.
No,
it is not a heartwarming family tale of a poor Polish girl as she sings her way across. Never mind.
And so many of other Kubrick movies are.
Yeah, I love it. Love a good Kubrick musical. That's one of my favorite genres.
I get it there. 2001 is one of those movies that either just works for you or it really doesn't. From our international House of Pancakes a correspondent, Vince, from up Canada ways, if you believe that's a real country. One film everyone loved.
That's what they told you?
That's what they told me. One film everyone loved and I can't stand is The Color Purple. I think the performances were great, but I thought Spielberg used Whoopi Goldberg like E.T. Ouch. She was treated like a prop, and they cut the lesbian stuff from the book out, well, most of it, there's a little. And it was just all the worst inclinations Spielberg had at the time. The uplifting ending made me ill. It just seemed like a movie about black experience made by white people, which it was. I know it's beloved, but to me it was offensive. Disclaimer, I do not represent all Canadians or Quebecers.
So there you go. I never saw The Color Purple. It was one of those films that you were not only supposed to see it, you're supposed to like it.
Yeah, I saw it when it came out, and that's kind of how I felt. It's like, well, if I don't like this movie, I'm racist.
Therefore, see, I avoided that by not seeing it. Therefore, I'm only half racist. I gotta say, if you look at Spielberg's career, he's that capital S Spielberg, the man, whatever. He's amazingly hit or miss.
Yeah.
Ready Player One. I'm just, yeah.
Mike,
Color Purple.
from Mike the Wheeze Dance. Oh, come on. The Star Wars Christmas special. Too easy. Mike, you're going to have to come up with another answer one of these days.
I didn't think I sent that one to you. Yeah, so Louise, if you want an actual apology, I'll give it to you, but it was your house. You could have turned it off anytime you wanted. And heck, even when I saw it when it came out, I didn't get as far as we did. I could smell that thing just like stinking in the garbage can, and it's like, hey, maybe Donnie and Marie's on. So
Geneva Brunetti says, Into the Wild. Oh, wow, I think that gets her expelled from being a woman. If you don't like that movie. I haven't read the book, yes, I know, but the movie was so incredibly underwhelming for me despite Emile Hirsch. Also, F.K. Stu. I believe she means Kristen Stewart.
She does.
which by that she means line?
Line? Yeah. Apparently she's really good. I think she just came out with her in it. It's a biopic. Apparently she's really good. I think is she the one playing Princess Di?
Yes, she is.
Apparently she's really good.
I have seen her in things she was not terrible in.
That's not good enough.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, keep going.
Matthew Reisman, Scott Pilgrim. I understand why people like it, but I think it's really unpleasant to watch. I'd actually like to hear more about the...
Well, I mean, there is that... It has a very defining actor in it, Michael Cera.
Yeah, if you don't like Michael Cera, and a lot of people don't...
Well, he is, moist.
He's very soft and wet, yes. Amy Paulson is a particularly controversial one. Every Marvel movie, yikes, but especially Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't think it's funny, I don't think it's charming, I don't think it's compelling. All the characters are annoying and unlikable except Groot, and he probably only gets a pass because he doesn't know enough words to be as smarmy as everybody else. Wow, bold choice.
Yeah. Not everyone likes everything.
From Val, I share chromosomes with Mike Coons. 3 immediately come to mind. There's Something About Mary, American Pie, and Pulp Fiction. Wow, one of these things is not like the others. Did not think the first two were funny at all. Pulp Fiction has a ton of problems for me, including that there isn't one character I could connect to or even care about. See our episode on Pulp Fiction.
Please.
Interesting.
Yeah, I saw American Pie in the theater. Interestingly, and not surprisingly, it was full of teenagers.
No.
I wasn't.
You weren't full of teenagers?
No, I was not. I find it dopily amusing. Like, I get it. I also see why it would annoy the crap out of people. But, I mean, if nothing else, it gave us Stifler's mom. Okay. So
Jennifer Coolidge is awesome. But, I'm afraid I never saw Something About Mary or American Pie.
Something About Mary is those brothers. Remember we...
Farrelly brothers?
Yeah, it's them. And I didn't know that he was so Ben Stiller-ish at the time, but it has Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
So now I won't watch it.
Jamie Kleinert, more of a genre, really. The Blair Witch Project, Halloween, Friday the 13th, The Ring, and any and every horror flick ever made, pretty much, with generous exceptions made for Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness. Okay, that's a very important distinction there.
Well, it has Bruce Campbell.
It does have Bruce Campbell.
And the chin.
Yes, Bruce Campbell, if chins could kill.
Yeah. I'm not big on horror films.
Yeah, I'm not either. Richard Tatum, I Heart Huckabees. I always liked the title. I never saw the movie. Valerie Kellner says, this may or may not be controversial, but I'm afraid I didn't enjoy Rogue One at all. Valerie, that is not controversial at all. Some of the characters were neat, but I felt the story didn't do enough with them, and a lot of them felt flat. I was bored through most of the movie, and the ending felt like a cop-out. It was like they just didn't want to deal with the characters or their continuity anymore outside the movie, which I think is a shame. It had potential. I was really excited for what I thought was going to be a sort of Star Wars-style heist movie, but none of it came together for me. I've heard people swear by it. Like, I'm glad it worked for them, but boy, it didn't work for me. Yeah, it didn't work for me either.
I've heard people swear at it. Yeah, you really don't care. And they picked a lead who looked exactly like Rey from Force Awakens, so I was confused. And then they literally take like 10 years out of her life and they never tell you what she did during it. They're just like, remember when she was a little girl and now she's in jail. What for? Never mind, we're moving on. Okay. But
George Saulnier, I hate Requiem for a Dream. It's as manipulative and gimmicky as a mid to late Spielberg, but instead of Capra-esque heartwarming, it's grotesque and depressing. So it must be art with a capital A. It's not. It's depressing, manipulative bleep. Oh, and guess what the moral is? Drugs are bad. Or, excuse me, drugs are bad. Whoa, really? Thanks. I won't get into Aronofsky's weird anti-lesbian obsession. Wow.
Okay.
George, you feel strongly about this one. I admit I've never seen this movie. I've never seen Requiem for a Dream. I'm not sure I'm going to.
I think I won't.
Kate Warner, oh, so many. The one I will get the most grief for is Forrest Gump. Maybe it's because I was like 20 when I saw it the first time and it was so overhyped, or maybe I'm just not American enough, but I just don't get it. I'm just not a fan. Fair enough. Tony Kellner, wow. Citizen Kane.
Burn the heretic.
I see good things in it, but I just don't enjoy it. Okay, let's talk about your bold statement. Sorry for using your real name there, Tony. You might want to change it.
To be fair, I understand where she's coming from. I can see why she would think there were good things in it, and there are, and still not find the movie enjoyable. I don't know if Citizen Kane is enjoyable. I think it was very well made and very brilliantly made, but I can definitely see why people will go, yeah, great. I don't like this film. So
Okay, fair enough. Steve Kellner writes, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Yeah, boy, Spielberg is just getting dumped on. People fell in love with that damn movie, but even in the theater, all I could see was the plot machinery and overt button pushing. It felt manipulative. I left angry and annoyed. Yeah, kind of see that.
yeah, it was very charming. I think one of the problems is that formula, because there is kind of a Spielberg formula, if you will, hadn't been as overused then, but looking back now, you're like, well, we've seen this.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in a very long time. I honestly don't know how it would hold up, walkie-talkies versus guns or not.
Well, the heck with that.
Yeah.
Strangely, one of my favorite of his films, which is Close Encounters, holds up very well. It's just post Jaws, so he's kind of got that same, well, there's this movie and then this movie, and somehow they go together thing going on. But it's really character driven. You get, Richard Dreyfuss as Roy
Dreary.
Patty. And it is a great performance by him. It's a really great performance. I mean, there's no bad performances, but here's this driven guy. Anyway, I like that film a lot. But again, Spielberg is very hit or miss.
From Nick Hoffman, Annie Hall. Okay. I remember, Mike, he was outraged with that movie when it beat Star Wars for Best Picture.
Yeah, it also has one other major problem. A lot of people overlook this, but I kind of can't.
Would that be Woody Allen?
Yes, it would.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or yes, it would, if you will.
That's kind of a problem, yeah.
Yeah, I just never liked him. Even when we find out the reasons he's so creepy, I'm just like, why? He makes me itchy. Like, you're at a party, this guy comes up to talk to you, and it's like, oh, the shrimp dip. And you just,
Yeah, I can see that. And finally, Brian Mundo, I seem to be the opposite. I always love movies that make others go meh. Oh.
He's a very sweethearted guy.
So I want to thank you all for your responses. I think they were fast. Hell, I think we could do an entire show just based on the responses.
We could. And speaking of which, Max, what's your film that everyone just loves? And you're like, oh, yes, cinema.
Honestly, going back, I agree. For me, it was Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump, when I first saw it, just flat out pissed me off. And it wasn't just because it beat out Pulp Fiction, sorry, folks, for Best Picture. It was... it bothers me, these movies that are glorification of stupid or simple. They're like, oh, intelligent people are all awful. You have to be the fool to be a decent person. And it was very gimmicky with the whole splicing in of actual historical figures. And I'm sorry to bring him back, but Woody Allen had already done that really well in a movie called Zelig.
About 7 years previously.
Yeah, exactly. It just bothered me. I just wanted to slap that movie. I love Tom Hanks, but I just wanted to slap that movie.
I felt more that the message was, though he was simple, he was a good person. And so I didn't get the same thing you did, although I can certainly see why you and a number of other people I talked to felt that way. The big problem I had, and I didn't have this initially, but I do now, is, of course, I can't help but wonder if Mr. Zemeckis gave a lot of people that might be in the news industry a keen idea. It's like, oh, wait, we have the technology to alter history? Yeehaw! So, because...
Now, what about you? What's me? What's a movie you don't like that everyone else loves and that then we can justly mock you for?
The Princess Bride. And it's not that I don't like it. I don't dislike it. I just don't like it. It's like everyone was like, oh, Princess Bride. And okay, it's fine. I don't think much of the acting in it's very good. I mean, to be fair, it's Andre the Giant. He wasn't exactly an actor. Poor Billy Crystal is under 50. Huh?
My way is not very sporting.
Poor Billy Crystal's under 50 pounds of makeup. Goes Carol Kane. I love Peter Falk, but quite honestly, Peter Falk knows one note. He just plays it very, very well. Fred Savage is fine. It's just, and what's his name? Cary Elwes. It's fine. It didn't go for my heart. So
okay, that's fair.
I'm sorry, Herr von Hauptwitz. You were not given this script ahead of time, but do you have a film that you're like, why do people like this? What's wrong with people?
Well, let me. I don't.
Prepared.
I've been thinking about it, and none springs to mind. Now, I don't have the finer tastes in artsy film that some people do, and I'd have to say that I'm with your listener who doesn't do horror. I mean, the real world's pretty scary enough. I just do not watch horror movies, no matter how good, quote-unquote, they are. The whole zombie genre, what have you.
Yeah, I only watch them if they're really bad. Because they're fun to make fun of. But
Hopping zombies are fun.
Yeah. I fall for this, the jump scream every time. It's like, do-do-do-do-do-do. Pete? Is that you? And it's coming because the music stopped and the actor is basically pointing off screen going, that's where he's coming from. And suddenly Pete, who's now had half his face chewed off by a weasel, goes, and I always fall for it. So I get it.
Face-chewing weasels. That was a classic.
And face-chewing weasels 2, which was actually the better of the series.
I don't know. I always thought that was a little derivative. But anyway, yeah.
Well, it was
so
in Europe,
nothing
so
specific. Okay.
So that's last week. What about next week?
Oh, no, this week
the
was
show's
next week.
over. Thank you for joining us. I meant new poll question.
Yep. Now, our question for next week is, what is one of your absolute favorite pieces of movie casting? As in, you looked at the character, you looked at the actor chosen to play them, and just went, yeah, they could not have done better.
So Nicolas Cage is Superman, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, Lois, I'm going to beat Lex Luthor.
I think you guys actually already covered this one a few episodes back in your whitewashing, and it's obvious. It's John Wayne as Genghis Khan.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because no one gives you the idea of Genghis Khan better than the Duke. Or me doing a really bad impersonation of the Duke.
You will watch the world turn black beneath the hooves of my horse.
The Crown Prince of Bland.
Yeah.
So you can answer that poll question as you do every poll question in ways that we're not going to tell you right now. Speaking of the poll question, if I can interject real quick, there has been a notation on the website that the poll question that you hear doesn't exactly match the poll question that you see. So, when in doubt, answer the website, answer the Facebook page, answer the Twitter, because that's where the current one that we're going to be adding to the show is. As we record ahead a little bit, what you're hearing right now won't be new till then.
Now then.
Right. But Max, you have some trivia, I hope, for Addams Family.
Quite a bit on the Addams Family.
The show.
Okay, the budget, $30 million. Worldwide gross, $191 million.
Oh, so, that's too bad.
Yeah. Not a big surprise that there was a sequel and a bunch of other stuff.
Oh, boy.
As I said, the movie is based on the show, which is based on the works of Charles Addams, who was a regular contributor to The New Yorker. Now, Addams, a lot of people like to think he was this strange, creepy guy who, looked like Gomez, but he was apparently very sociable, very debonair. One of his biographers described him as being a well-dressed, courtly man with silvery, back-combed hair and a gentle manner. He bore no resemblance to a fiend. He was apparently like a serious ladies' man. He used to go around with Greta Garbo, Joan Fontaine, and even Jackie Kennedy.
Yeah, but wasn't Greta Garbo a famous ladies' man too? Oh, right.
He was married twice, and one of the reasons he was divorced was he refused to have or adopt children, as apparently he hated small children.
I don't think that shows in his cartoons at all.
Oh, boy. This movie is the directorial debut of Barry Sonnenfeld.
Oh.
Yes, best known for being a real hit or miss. This is the guy who did the Men in Black series and Wild Wild West.
Ah.
Yeah. He has a cameo in the movie. In the sequence where Gomez is playing with his trains and right before two of them crash together, you see a little passenger look up and see Gomez laughing. That's Barry Sonnenfeld.
Ooh.
Now, the idea for this film came during a car ride, apparently. Scott Rudin, the head of production at 20th Century Fox, was riding in a van with some other company execs after a movie screening, and as in his words, everyone was there, Barry Diller, Leonard Goldberg, marketing chief Tom Sherrick, when Tom's kids started singing the Addams Family theme. And Rudin told the Los Angeles Times, suddenly everyone in the van was singing the theme, letter perfect, note for note. And the next day, Rudin went into Diller and Goldberg and pitched the movie, and they went for it.
Interesting that they left it entirely out of the film.
Yeah, well...
You don't hear anybody sing the theme.
Well, no, but you do, and we'll get to this. You do hear MC Hammer commit atrocities against it.
It's just Hammer.
Oh, excuse me. At that point, it was just Hammer? Oh.
I checked.
My apologies to Mr. Hammer.
Yeah, please, Hammer, don't hurt him. You, on the other hand, yeah.
After the movie premiered, children would frequently recognize Raul Julia as Gomez Addams out in public, which would be new to him because, Raul Julia didn't do a lot of children's movies.
No.
But apparently, according to him, that always brought a smile to his face. He said that playing Gomez Addams was his favorite role. And his family said the recognition was really meaningful to him in the final months of his life because he loved performing for children and making them happy whenever the opportunity presented itself.
Aww.
This was not Raul Julia's last film. His last film was, of course, the magnum opus Street Fighter.
Ah.
Yeah.
If I remember everything I heard about Raul, is it Julia or Julia? I don't even know.
It's generally pronounced Julia. I don't know what it actually should have been.
I heard that he was just a really nice guy.
Everybody loved working with him. He was famous for that. He was incredibly talented, and he was taken from us way too early. He died at the age of 54 from a stroke.
Ugh, that is way too soon.
According to Angelica Houston, Christina Ricci came up with Wednesday's sleeping position with her arms folded across her chest by herself.
You get a lot of ideas that Christina Ricci it's that perfect match of actor and part.
Yeah.
And this is like her first big role, isn't it?
It was. This created her. This made her a star. And we'll get to this, but talk about just friggin' flawless casting.
Yeah.
I didn't know this from the show. The name Wednesday is a reference to the line in the Mother Goose poem, Monday's child is fair of face. Wednesday's child is full of woe.
Yeah. You didn't know that?
I did not remember that line. I only remember the first two. Wednesday's middle name, by the way, is Friday. Yes, her name is Wednesday Friday Addams.
Sure.
Now, in the TV show, the 1964, Uncle Fester was Morticia's mother's brother, and his surname is never known. It's occasionally implied that he only has the one name. In this movie and most subsequent interpretation, he's Gomez's brother. I don't know quite why they made this change, but it does make it a little simpler.
For the plot.
The things they had to do to Angelica Houston to make her look like Morticia: she had to wear a metal corset.
Ugh.
She also had to get gauze eye lifts, neck tucks, and fake nails daily. She told Entertainment Weekly, "Come afternoon, I could be prone to a really good headache from my various bondages, and because I couldn't lie down in the corset or rest, it was fairly exhausting." That's how you know she sounds so darn English. Originally, the mamushka scene was supposed to be longer. The song, which we only get one line of, is a full song describing brotherly love, and both Gomez and Fester naming other famous brothers. The test screenings revealed the audiences thought the song brought the movie to a standstill. So it only shows an edited version with only Gomez and Fester dancing and Gomez throwing knives at Fester. You can find the full song on the movie soundtrack. Yeah. The splash of tar from the opening gag is visible on the front of the Addams house throughout the rest of the movie. I didn't notice that.
I just wondered what it was because I forgot that there was tar splash.
The Addams Family car, that is a 1932 Packard Twin 6, and I want one.
Who's going to drive it?
I don't know, because I'm sure I could not.
Oh, Herr von Halbwitz, do you have a license?
You'd be more likely to be able to drive it than I would. This movie has an odd connection to the Godfather series. Bruno Kirby, from Godfather 2, offered the fat suit that he wore in Godfather 2 to Christopher Lloyd to play Uncle Fester.
So wait, this is the second appearance of the fat suit.
Yep.
I wonder if it has its own IMDb page.
I think it does. David Levy, who executive produced the TV show The Addams Family, filed a lawsuit against Paramount Pictures after the film was released. He claimed that a lot of the Addams Family character trademarks used in the film, including Gomez's fascination with blowing up model trains, the characters of Thing and Cousin It, Lurch's fondness for playing the harpsichord, and the tangos danced by Morticia and Gomez, were original ideas created by him exclusively for the series, and they were not part of the original Charles Addams cartoons, for which Paramount Pictures had purchased the movie rights. The lawsuit was later settled out of court. He kind of had a point. I mean, if nothing else, in the cartoons, the Addams Family characters didn't have names.
No, but here's the thing. Generally, when you're doing this for a studio, you don't get to keep rights to anything.
Yeah.
So if you create something, it's in service to the studio, and it's up to the studio to decide whether or not they're going to pursue. So he may be right, but that's work for hire, folks.
There was one thing that always puzzled me in the opening credits that I found out about. They thank someone called the Lady Colleton. The Lady Colleton is Barbara Barb, who was married to Charles Addams from 54 to 56. When they got divorced, she received the copyrights to some of his works as part of the divorce settlement. So they had to get them from her. She later remarried Henry Hopkinson, Baron Colleton. That's how she got the title.
I mean.
At the beginning of the movie, Gomez laments that it's been 25 years since Fester disappeared. This movie, released in 1991, came 25 years after The Addams Family was canceled in 1966. Which implied that once the show was canceled, Fester just left. I actually missed this. Herr von Halbwitz caught this, and I checked. During the party, the Mamushka party, one of the partygoers is a little person who von Helbwitz thought looked familiar and was correct. It's an uncredited Zelda Rubinstein from Poltergeist. At Tangina. This house is clean.
In the Mamushka scene, there's a sort of a chorus line, if you will, of Addams' family members behind Gomez and Fester. And yeah, I look, boy, she looks familiar. And
She's off to the left, right? I believe.
correct.
The main theme was written and performed by Hammer, and it won a Razzie Award in the category of Worst Original Song.
Good, because not only does it have dumb lyrics, but he repeats them over and over and over.
Yeah, it's an incredibly uninteresting song. The actors were concerned about the ambiguity of the Big Fester storyline. Initially, it was going to be unknown if Gordon, the man suffering from memory loss, who happens to look like Fester, was Fester. The cast members actually got Christina Ricci to make an impassioned plea to Scott Rudin and Barry Sonnenfeld 2 weeks before shooting that Fester should not be an imposter. Sonnenfeld remembered that the only cast member who didn't care was Christopher Lloyd, the guy who played Fester.
Yeah, well,
There's a bunch of other stuff, but I think that's more than enough.
yeah. So, the plot.
The plot. They're creepy and they're kooky, certainly. One cannot argue that they are not mysterious and spooky, but are they, in fact, altogether ooky? We're speaking, of course, about the Addams Family. 1991 sees the loving Addams family living their usual macabre lifestyle, which, of course, to them seemed perfectly normal, sorrowing only over the long absence of Uncle Fester due to a breach between him and his brother Gomez. Suddenly, Fester returns, but all is not well. A fake psychiatrist has forced Gomez's crooked lawyer to present her son Gordon as Fester. Gordon, oddly enough, bears an uncanny resemblance to the missing Fester. The family, being largely remarkably dim or naive, welcomes this impostor with open arms, although Gomez and Wednesday remain suspicious at first, but are eventually won over by Gordon/Fester's knowledge of arterial blood spurts and an odd semi-Slavic dance number. But is this man an impostor? What nefarious plot is afoot? And are they really a scream, this Addams family?
The lowdown.
That's pretty much it. The plot is not really the point of this movie.
It's not?
It's not.
Well, then what is the point of the movie?
Zany jokes and probably the greatest casting of any movie in history. I mean, I know this is giving away some, but I cannot off the top of my head think of a movie where every major part is so perfectly cast. My God, Raul Julia just is Gomez Addams. Angelica Houston runs away with every scene she's in as Morticia. Christopher Lloyd is terrific as Fester. Christina Ricci, literally, they might have written the part for her if it hadn't existed 25 years before.
I was just going to say that I pitied the poor kid playing Pugsley, whose name I can't remember because none of us can.
Yeah.
Jimmy Workman.
Thank you for trying to go up against young Christina Ricci.
Yeah, she unfortunately blows him off the screen, but honestly, the character of Pugsley is never very interesting in any of the incarnations. By the way, young Jimmy went on to do some other acting, but mostly he worked in transportation.
Oh?
If you look on his IMDb, he's like transportation captain for this movie, transportation coordinator for this movie.
So he drove the shuttle bus.
Yeah, he drove people around a lot.
Yeah.
But he stayed in the business.
Employed. Yeah, why not? He looked familiar. I meant to look him up, and it's like, I swear as a child actor, he was in something else, and I just can't place him.
The woman who played Mama, or in the TV show, it's Grandmama. She's actually been in like Dog Day Afternoon and 60s movies. Worked really well, and I never remember his name. The guy who plays Lurch.
Oh, it's Carol Stroiken.
Carol Stroiken, who he has the look perfectly. You can kind of understand, though, in the show, originally Lurch is a speaking part. He had his own catchphrase, you rang, Mr. Adams. And in this, they make him silent, and it works. And of course, we all know Carol from his parts as Mr. Hom from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Where he has one line.
One line. And the Giant from Twin Peaks, where he has several lines that just don't make any sense.
Lurch in the original series, he did talk occasionally. Mostly all he said was, so the fact that they didn't expand the part doesn't really matter that much. So.
And Christopher Lloyd is just so much fun as Fester.
Well, when is he not
Yeah.
fun? Really? I mean, I'm sure there's a film somewhere that Christopher Lloyd in is, and he's not fun, but I have yet to see it. So.
And I got to say, the visuals, the way it looks is so good. It just really both updates and captures the look of the show. It's funny, the opening fonts of the credits, the first thing I thought was, is this a Tim Burton movie?
Yeah.
A lot of people think that, by the way, and originally Tim Burton was supposed to direct it, but he ended up not doing it. So this is in no way a Tim Burton movie.
I disagree. I think it's very much a Tim Burton movie. They just got it for a lot cheaper than if they had been able to hire Mr. Burton. And I just was like, man, if they had not made Beetlejuice, they would not have made this film, or at least they would not have made it like this.
Yeah.
Because boy, did it stank of Beetlejuice and Tim Burton. Thankfully, I think it's actually toned down from Tim Burton, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But one of the things I noticed is the film starts in Christmas, and I was like, it's a Christmas movie. And the opening gag, I think, but I'm not positive, was an actual Addams Family cartoon.
100%. It absolutely. There are several
Okay.
moments in the movie that are taken right out of the cartoons. That is one of them.
It's also the only time you hear the real theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They quote it right there when they're about to tip the pot. That's
Yeah.
it until
Yeah.
Mr. Hammer interprets it anew for us.
And he smacks it like his namesake over and over. And
Yeah.
we, the audience, are the thumb.
Yeah.
But there you go. I don't remember, and I went back and watched some of the original episodes of the show, and I didn't remember the original Addams as being quite that sexy before. There is implications that basically Gomez is like, we need to go off and hump like bunnies right now, except it's the 60s and we can't say hump and we can't say bunnies.
Oh, He was always all over Morticia, especially whenever she spoke French.
Yeah, but like there is a level of sexiness in this film that's definitely not 60s level. And you mentioned earlier, talking, I think, in the trivia, was this considered a children's film?
Yeah,
It was. Okay.
It was
I honestly
definitely a
didn't know
children's
because
film.
I was watching this and like, who's it for? That was one of my questions is who is this movie for? And I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, but it was considered, if not for children, then at least child-friendly.
Yeah.
You can tell by the language.
Yeah. You answered one of my note questions, which was, how did they get Christopher Lloyd to look so huge? And now we know it's the Bruno Kirby Memorial Fat Suit. So, yeah. Well, maybe we can, we'll do a whole series on the Bruno Kirby Memorial Fat Suit. Or we won't.
I gotta say, Angelica Houston's delivery in this movie, every line she says is so perfect. I mean, just when she's reading aloud the family motto, she says in Latin, and then we gladly feast on those who would destroy us. Not just pretty words.
Again, I went back and watched some shows, and Carolyn Jones, who originated the role, same thing, a different way. But she too, she's really the head of the family. Gomez thinks he is, but he's not.
No, she's definitely she's the one who sees the way things are.
Yeah,
A little better. I mean, the part of the humor of the Addams Family is their colossal naivete. The fact that they just assume everyone. It's so strange because they're so violent, or they're so blasé about violence and death, but they always assume everyone is nice.
And they're nice.
Yeah.
They're actually very nice people. They're very generous, especially in the TV show. They're giving stuff away all the time. Okay, who wants a marlin head with a leg sticking out of it? Well,
I would.
But they're actually very nice. And there's one thing that was very true of the cartoons, or at least it was supposed to be, and the original show. And here they kind of go over the line a few times, and that's that the Addams Family is never supposed to be actually evil. They're just macabre. They're dark. But when Pugsley takes the stop sign down and they all huddle together waiting for the school bus to crash into something, it's like, I mean, it's funny, but it felt like they were darkening the Addams Family a little bit much to me.
And the implication that Gomez's toy trains are somehow actually causing real trains to crash.
Or do they just have little tiny people that move in them?
We don't know.
No. There's that 60s magic going on, right? Because we have tons of magic in 60s TV. We have I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched.
The Monsters.
And that other monster show.
Yeah.
Strangely came out the same year.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, I did not know they were the same year. I knew they were roughly the same period.
1964.
I spent most of my childhood wishing for a crossover episode.
I don't think they actually did that, even with Scooby Doo.
It's funny. Scooby Doo met the Addams Family. He never met the Munsters.
No, well, the Munsters were owned by Universal.
Oh, okay.
Because that was basically them taking their own property and going, well, let's make it goofy.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I couldn't find any information about this. I looked up information on both shows. It's like, was one copying the other? Because both of them had history.
There were some complaints about that. Some sniping back and forth that each one accused the other of being a copycat. Except that the tone of them are so different. The big thing with the Munsters is they wanted to act. They thought they were like everybody else.
Right.
The Addams Family doesn't understand why everyone isn't like them. They are much more insular, and they're much more convinced that their macabre way of, Herman had a job, and Eddie went to normal school.
Well, Wednesday goes to normal
school.
Well, once.
The Addamses were much more upper class, at least in terms of money, than the Munsters.
Right.
The Munsters were firmly middle class.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know? I didn't know this until I looked this up. Do you realize how far back the Addams Family comics went?
Oh, I think it was in, the 30s, 40s?
1938.
Yeah.
I had no idea they were that old. Mm-hmm. Supposedly, with the Munsters, there was an idea with Bob Clampett, one of the original animators for the Looney Tunes, to do a very similar show like this back in the 40s. So again, both of these ideas had been percolating. Whether it was happenstance, I don't know. But I never saw them originally. I was too young. But in reruns, it was always like, well, isn't this just the same thing? I mean, it wasn't. But the cast of the Munsters actually thought they were doing social satire. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. So, yeah, whatever.
I mean, Herman does have a very famous speech people keep quoting these days about what you look like doesn't matter, what color your skin is, because I think Eddie was, Lily was green. Which you didn't know because the show started in black and white.
Oh, it was always in black and white.
Oh, I thought it ended up in color.
No,
Munsters
they did
it. One of the ill-fated attempts to revive
the movies, yes.
Yeah.
Munsters Today and other such abominations, those are in color, but the TV series is black and white.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Speaking of which, the Addams Family had quite the history on the small and big screen. Ones that I'm like, really? So, of course, we went from the show, which is 64 to 66, to the new Scooby Doo movies in 1972, which had not only John Astin, the original Gomez, and Carolyn Jones doing their voices. A very odd choice for Pugsley. Jodie Foster.
What?
Played Pugsley Addams in the cartoon. Then the Addams Family got its own show, the Addams Family Funhouse in 73. Then Addams Family 73 74. Halloween with the new Addams Family 77. The Addams Family movie 91. Do you remember the Addams Family musical in 2010?
I do not, but if I remember, I read about it. Nathan Lane and B.B. Newirth are Gomez and Morticia.
Yep.
I kind of would have liked to see that.
Yeah. Apparently it won a couple of Tonys.
Wow.
So, whatever. I guess there's been pretty much every decade, except for the 80s, there's been an Addams Family thing. Yeah, since the 60s.
Recently there was an animated movie, and there's a sequel to it coming out.
Do you remember in 98 there was a Addams Family reunion starring Tim Curry and Daryl Hannah?
I heard about it. I don't believe I ever watched it.
Christina Iwerchi was in it too.
Oh, wow.
No, that's Addams Family Values. Sorry, never mind. I can't help but wonder if it wasn't sort of the Addams Family holiday special, if you know what I mean.
I would. They had an Addams Family holiday special with the original cast. I remember seeing this.
And Starship?
No.
And Leslie Uggams?
They should have. and
Paul Williams and
Gomez's other brother shows up, who I thought should have been named Itchy or Lumpy, but was in fact, I think it was Sancho.
Oh, I thought it would have been Chip or Emil. But, that's a deeper.
It was, as someone pointed out, it was yet another Spanish first name on a guy with an English last name who was turned on by French.
I want to. So the main part of this plot, if you haven't seen the film, it's 30 years old. Too bad.
Yeah.
The whole point of this plot, as you pointed out in trivia, has to deal with the fact that, there's people out to get the Addams money, and they're going to do so by having this guy, Gordon, who bears a, quote, striking resemblance to Fester Addams, end quote. Although it turns out, oh no, it's actually him. There's no real point for Gordon becoming or transitioning or whatever into Fester. He just suddenly is like, I want to go play with the kids. Like, he doesn't get hit in the head. He doesn't, any of those old tropes. It's just like he's following what his mother tells him until he decides to go play with the kids.
Well, the idea is being home, being in the house is starting to trigger emotions and memories for him. It's not played up very much, and the change is very sudden.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally is from one scene to the next.
Yeah.
But I think that's the idea. That didn't bother me too much.
For me, it's just like, what's the reason for this? Why is he suddenly changing? And I can understand why he signs like, I'm not going to listen to you anymore, mother. It's like, okay, I get that part. But even then, he's like still very, very Gordon at the end of the film. Like the Mumushka, he suddenly comes alive and he knows the entire dance. But there's just no reason.
Mamushka, by the way, is a kind of Ukrainian cuisine.
Ooh. I hope it's tasty.
But yeah, that's the thing. We're up to that point. We're supposed to, it's okay. We're sort of, he's slowly coming back. He's getting the idea. Out of nowhere, he knows the full choreography, including how to swallow swords all of a sudden.
And yet, it's not enough for him to go, oh, of course, I remember now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Herr von Halbut.
I was just going to say, so you guys have a problem with the subtleties of the character arc in a movie about the Addams Family. Just want to make sure I'm understanding this.
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and Max will back me up on this. Even if it's for children, that doesn't mean it can't be written well.
Yeah. And it should have some internal consistency. That's all. It's because kids do catch that sort of thing.
And let's face it, they do one of the things that we've been kind of waiting for, a signature Fester thing, is eventually he gets hit with electricity, and suddenly, like they could have done that. It couldn't have been as simple as that. Like maybe Pugsley is playing a joke on him and accidentally shocks him, and he's sort of like, oh wait. Oh, explosions. I like explosions.
We know the kids have their own electric chair.
Right. It just needs time to warm up.
I love that line. So we're going to play a game. Pugsley says, what game? And Wednesday, Christina Ricci just gives that perfect look and goes, it's called Is There a God?
And she's utterly perfect.
Oh, my God.
I mean, she's what, 10?
Kind of. She was 11 when she made this movie.
I don't think I've seen that kind of depth ever out of a child actor, except for the girl who played Newt in Aliens, who I think basically went on to not act anymore.
Well, Haley Joel Osment, I think, in The Sixth Sense.
Yeah. Well, in poor Haley. Just took that part and just made it hers. And in fact, the second film is arguably a film about the Addams Family. Yeah. And Wednesday.
Yeah, she makes that second. The second film, it's kind of a rehash of the first in some ways, except for her. Her storyline could have been the whole movie.
There's that one scene, I know we didn't watch it for this show, but there's that one scene where she's basically forced to smile. Yeah. And it's the most uncomfortable thing.
It's horrifying.
And Christina Ricci does it perfectly because you can tell she's trying, and when she does it, it hurts her more than the people looking at it.
Yeah, but the people looking at it are like, some of them start to cry and like,
Yeah.
what is she doing?
Yeah. I want to ask, I don't know if you remember this, Max, the Girl Scout who comes up to her, they're trying to sell lemonade. Is that actress the same one who plays one of the girls?
Yes, it is. That is Mercedes McNabb, and she plays the head snotty blonde. She also goes up to play Harmony on Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. But yes, that is you caught it. That's her.
Okay. A question for both of you, gentlemen. Do you think the movie's funny?
It's not laugh out loud, Blazing Saddles, what's up, Doc, funny. It's certainly amusing. I think I found myself waiting for beats that came from the original series or even the cartoons. It's certainly not a tragedy or an action-adventure romp. I think amusing would be the word I would pick.
See, I think it's just funny. I think it still holds up. Pretty much everything Raul Julia or Angelica Houston said, every one of their jokes, I thought just landed perfectly. When their lawyer Tully, who is played beautifully by Dan Hedaya, who is made to play sleazy lawyers.
He did seem kind of perfect.
Yeah, when he's trying to play up the Fester Addams offshore account fund. Fester Addams, yes, loved animals, kind to children, and Gomez just throws off, they never proved anything, and then they keep going.
Yeah.
That still cracks me up.
Yeah, okay, I've got to. Yeah, the timing and a lot of the little throwaway lines like that. Those were funny, and they were very well done.
When Gomez is talking about the combination to the vault, 2, 10, 11, eyes, fingers, toes.
Yeah.
Which I think went over a bunch of kids' heads.
Yeah, probably.
Wait, how many do I have?
I think it's funny. It makes me laugh.
We do have a question or two for this series. One of which was, is this film so mighty that it can lay low the mountains of the earth? No, it is not as so mighty as all that. No, one of the questions is, does this film capture the feeling of its source material? And in this case, I'm going to say the source material, because of the series, is the TV show, not as much the comics.
Definitely, yeah. I think it does. I think it really does. It captures a lot of it. It captures the macabre nature. It captures the weird, off-kilter humor. And it also captures one of the nicest things about the show. The thing I never realized when I was a kid why I liked that show so much better than the Munsters. The relationship between Gomez and Morticia is so sweet. Yeah. They were one of the few married couples on TV who always got along. And their love for each other was so obvious and so clear.
Yeah.
It was just, it's always nice to watch, and I think that comes across in this just as much.
A bit much BDSM for a kid's movie for my taste, but,
The pain wheel, okay.
I do like when they've got Morticia on the rack and Tully is turning the crank and she just looks at him and goes, "You've done this before."
Yeah.
I hope that went over the kids' heads.
Yeah, that's why I was asking who this movie was for, because it's not... I
think those jokes were for the parents.
Sure. I think it's definitely... Like, there was no chance that somebody said, "I'm going to make a real Addams Family movie," and you ain't seen that. It's nothing like that. It feels very much... Even though the portrayals are different, they're still very much referencing the show. And with the exception of a couple of updated things, and it's really not much, it feels very much like an idea that could have been done on the show, or they wouldn't have done a two-parter back then. But I think it does too. I think it very much. The second question I had, and if you have others, by all means, does this film respect its source material?
Oh, I think definitely.
Yeah, and it respects it, and it doesn't rehash it or beat it to death. There were a number of cute shout-outs to the series, like at the very end, the little throwaway with Fester putting the light bulb in his mouth and it lighting up. They did that all the time in the series. And the train crashes, but they didn't depend on them or just rehash them. I don't know, first series of Star Trek Next Generation did.
Did you like that episode? Because we're going to do it again and again.
Yeah. What did you think?
Same thing. It's
Yeah.
you can get to the point where you're doing fan service, and that's always bad. And that's when you take something that you know the fans love, and put it in just because they love it. It doesn't have any bearing on the plot. It doesn't necessarily fit a scene, but you got to have that catchphrase. You have to have Chachi come up going wah 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 for reasons nobody understands. And I don't feel that there was any of that. So not only did they respect it, they took something that really could have not worked from 25 years previous and apparently made it into something that worked, $191 million. And a sequel, and a Broadway show, okay, whatever. And apparently, there was one cartoon which had Oscar Isaac and Charlize Theron doing the Gomez and Morticia parts.
Yeah, that's the most
there's another
recent
one coming out later this year.
Yep.
So there you go. That's all I have for stuff.
I had one. Did this? And I'm not even sure how to phrase this, because this comes up with remakes of TV shows. Did they make good use of the fact that this was a movie versus a TV show? Did this feel more cinematic than the TV show?
I'd say in certain ways, definitely. Like the the expansion of the character of Thing. Because in the TV show, it was literally Ted Cassidy's hand in a box. That's all they could do.
And it was much more limited, and it was a sight gag, literally.
Yeah.
But also, I thought the sheer number of family members in the Mamushka scene, I remember the show, you'd occasionally get cousin so-and-so or uncle so-and-so showing up, but never so many in one place.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely used the bigger budget they had to advantage, and to larger cast, the scale of the sets, the level of detail in the sets, like that sort of cuckoo clock gag just after the opening credits. That must have been incredibly expensive. Also, is this for the kids? You notice that the Gomez character is kissing her cleavage, which kind of bugged me. So to answer the question, yes.
Well, it is that time. We're actually right up at the end of the clock here, so we should get to the roundup. The roundup. So, Max.
Yeah.
Ha! I saw you trying. You didn't. You saw this when it came out.
I did.
And do you remember how you liked it then?
I liked it a lot. I thought it was, when I first saw it, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was really funny. And again, even then, the casting blew me away.
And now?
And now I still really like it. I mean, some of it is aged a little. The CG in the hurricane scene is really dated.
There's some bad matte paintings. Although there were some bad matte paintings in the TV show, too.
Yeah. But
maybe that was referential.
To me, this is just still so much fun to watch. If nothing else, like most of the cast looks like they're having a ball. I mean, Raul Julia, the joy he just comes out of him. And Angelica Houston, kudos to, she must have been in so much discomfort in that outfit.
Yeah.
And yet she nails everything she does, every look, every line. And, as you say, when is Christopher Lloyd not fun to watch?
Yeah.
And we've already said, Christina Ricci was the revelation of that movie. And even Lurch is a lot of fun.
Herr von Halbwitz? Oh, I'm sorry, Max. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Herr von Halbwitz?
I didn't see it in theaters. I must have seen it at some point, because when Max said, the movie we're doing is the Addams Family, and I said, is it the one, blah, blah, blah. But there are lots of it I didn't remember, so a lot of it was a pleasant surprise. So I can't say how well it aged for me, because I don't think I'd seen the whole thing. That said, it was a lot of fun. And the next time I watch it, I'll gladly watch it again, if that makes sense.
Sure.
How about you?
I felt it was very 90s. It kind of couldn't be more 90s if it tried. And I couldn't even tell you what about it was 90s or what even that means. But I watched this as like, oh yeah, this was made in the 90s. Okay. Honestly, I think some of it drags. I think there's some points that it just really comes to a halt. I was a little weirded out by the Addamses having to live in a motel. It just felt very fish out of a water, but not in an Addams Family kind of way. But the casting's wonderful. I think you're right. Everybody's having a really good time. Christina Ricci, oh my God. I mean, even if that's not like her at all, she just took it and it's like, this is my chance. And boy, was it. It's cute. It didn't make me laugh. That's why I was wondering who it was for. It has nice memories. I don't know that I'd go back to it so much again, but it really did capture as well as it could the feeling of the original show. I think they did a really good job without turning to parody. And I think we're probably going to run into that once or twice during this series. So, but Max, if you'd do us a favor, would you let our listeners know how they can respond to this week's poll question, which, if I remember, is... That's your cue.
Oh, we've been talking about how great the casting is in this movie. What is an example to you of a really stellar piece of movie casting, where you looked at the character and you looked at the actor and you said, there's no one else who could have done this? And you can answer this question either through the social mediatings of Facebook or Twitter. Please follow us on Twitter. You can email us at maxmikemovies.com, which carries us flawlessly into the transition that we have a website, maxmikemovies.com, where you can leave a comment, find our back catalog of shows, or you can text Mike directly at the following number.
Stop! No. And Weasel, no more references to the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Keep doing them, Wheeze.
Although they were talking before we started, and if you just punt and say, oh yeah, the Addams Family movie, they will deduct bumpy bucks from your account if you quote that one. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Bumpy bucks.
Bumpy
and
bucks.
This week, if you leave a comment on the website, if you email us directly, you leave us a comment, Bumpy will leave something for you.
Yes, it'll be brown and steaming and you won't enjoy it at all. So, but next week, what are we seeing?
A movie.
That'll
Tune
be a
in,
nice
won't
change.
you? Thank you. We're continuing our series, I Made from TV Love You. We're taking an old show from the 60s because, quite honestly, somehow Hollywood has not finished mining the 60s bare. We're going to go to 2009. We're going to take a big leap ahead. And we're not going to keep our sights low. We're going to have our sights high. They're going to be higher than the sky. We're going to aim for the stars.
Oh, no.
We're going to go on a star mission. Wait, no.
Sort of a star trip?
Yes, like that. A star
journey?
Track. Oh, I hated it when they did that to me in grade school. Star Trek. The reboot? We're not sure where this fits in. Hey, how about these new young people instead of all those old people doing a Star Trek movie called, not at all confusingly, Star Trek, starring Chris Pine and a bunch of other trees.
Okay, so it's that version. So it's not Star Trek, the motionless picture.
No.
It's Star Trek from 2009.
Yes, 2009's Star Trek, starring all those people you don't remember except for one, and we'll get to that next week, won't we? But let's thank once more our special guest, Herr von Halbwitz, all the way from Dernstein or wherever he's from.
Viele recht herzlichen Dank.
What he said.
That too. So join for us for more of that next week, or more music and less Nessman.
This has been a co-production of The Voice of Max and The Movie Wrench.